Hello,
No more
ladies and
ASMR.
gentlemen, and welcome
Stop.
to Just Another Movie Podcast, horror movie podcast. Of course, this is The Evil Dead and The Evil Dead 2 today, Dawn of the Dead, or it's Dead Until Dawn, something like that, right? Dead by Dawn is what it is.
Dead by Dawn, yeah.
Dead by Dawn. My apologies. Of course, I am joined by the Marvel Love and Twitch streaming, Captain Britannia. Odds on.
Groovy.
You got a
I can't do
second
the
chance.
eyebrow.
You
I
got a
can't do
second chance.
I did. I'm so happy.
The movie fanatic, Johnathan Ross.
Morning.
And the music man, Benny Frozen Fire Radford.
What's good, you guys?
If you didn't know it, that's the second time we've done this intro, but you're not going to see that on youtube.com/StyleGames because this is our Evil Dead podcast, and we are going to have some fun today because you, unfortunately, missed the ASMR that we did earlier because we all cracked open our drinks, and I'll tell you, just about every single one of them cracked open, except, nope. Good try, though. Sad face. So what we're going to be doing today, you're getting a special 2-for-1 episode. We are talking about The Evil Dead by Sam Raimi, as well as Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, also by Sam Raimi. It's going to be a little bit of a different kind of structure today as we run into everything because obviously we're talking about two different movies. They are very similar in a lot of aspects, and we'll get into all that. But I want to go ahead and start with the basic info for The Evil Dead, which is, of course, having a runtime of 85 minutes. It was released in, I believe, 83. I don't have the exact date up here, I guess. Thought I had it.
I think it's 81.
81. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, because it was the year after The Shining. Exactly. Written and directed by Sam Raimi, produced by Robert Tapert. Budget of roughly $375,000 and a box office of $2.4 million domestically, and apparently sources differ, but $27 million overseas. Apparently, it was a smash hit internationally, with a disappointing domestic box office here in the United States, but did very, very well overseas. For some reason, the sources aren't 100% accurate about that. I saw that there was like differing arguments or something for some reason. Johnathan, do you know anything about that?
I do. Everything you're saying is correct, and I know because I watched the first movie this morning with the director and with the commentary featuring Sam, Robert, and Bruce, all three, and that was largely the discussion. That whole movie was about securing the release for the movie, so I learned that this morning.
Interesting. Of course, Evil Dead was starring Bruce Campbell, who played Ash Williams. You got Ellen Sandweiss, who was Cheryl. Richard DeManicore, Scotty, Betsy Baker, Linda, Teresa Tilly as Shelley. Music was done by Joe LaDuca, who is also known for Spartacus. Cinematography by Tim Philo, and production company was Renaissance Pictures, and it was distributed by New Line Cinema, which is, of course, something that is actually a big part of the reason what we're going to be talking about today is the distribution, because it does play a big role in what happens with these movies and how they were kind of told in the sequel and things that Sam Raimi struggled with as he went through. I want to go ahead and give a couple fun facts here real quick. That Sam Raimi is uncredited in the first movie as the voice of the Evil Dead, so I assume that he is the one saying, "Join us." And another thing is that Stephen King gave the movie a rave review, saying it was one of his favorite films when he first saw it, which is crazy. That's definitely a rave review. It was also based off of a short film that Raimi made to gather investors to make the movie. Within the Woods is what that one was called. I want to go ahead and open it up for some round table discussion here because we are going to be taking this a little bit differently. We are talking about two movies today, but the fact that these two movies are so special in their own way and so different from Alien that we did and then The Shining, they're not in the same vein of movie making, in my opinion, if that makes sense, just because The Shining is very artistic in its own way, and then Alien was kind of like this. It also had a lot of artistic elements to it. Not that this movie doesn't, but it's just different critically, if you understand what I mean. So we won't be talking necessarily just about the cinematography, the acting. We will in different ways, but it's not going to be wow, the cinematography when he framed this shot and all that stuff. It's more about what this movie does with what it can, with the resources that it has in the budget and the ideas that Raimi wanted to put into action, and what he was able to do with the money that he had, because that's really what kind of makes The Evil Dead what it is. It is, like I said, a budget of $375,000, which is not a lot, because I believe Alien was like a budget of 11 million, and The Shining was probably was much more than that. This is very, very small on the scale of budgets for movies. So, and it definitely affects this movie. And we're not going to talk about The Evil Dead 2 yet. Just keeping it for The Evil Dead right now. Johnathan, I want to throw it to you just because I know you are a big fan of this whole franchise, but I want you to just keep it about the first film for right now, if you could.
Another fun fact, but I'll turn it into a pop quiz, because it's also something you might be able to just kind of like guess through context. Can any of you tell me what you think the original name of the first movie was going to be? Once you hear it, you'll be like, "That's so obvious."
Does it have
I
something
thought
to
you
do
may
with
know already.
I didn't, because I only knew what the short film was called. But does it have to do with the book?
Yeah.
Is it the Book of the Dead or the Necronomicon? Yep. The Book of the Dead?
Book of the Dead. That was the original name. And the reason it was going to be called that is Sam studied ancient civilizations in college, and one of the things that he heavily researched was the actual like Book of the Dead that he made his own fictionalized version of. So that was the original name of it. They used almost everybody involved with this movie was like somebody that they already knew. Like Sam and Bruce went to school together. They knew each other from school. The lead actress in the Evil Dead, she was someone they knew from high school. She was
like the actual people.
Yeah. So that's how they got her in there. It was just really it's one of the best examples, I would say, of all time of a movie coming together just from the sheer willpower of all the people involved and wanting to make it. And I think that that's probably what makes it such an enduring classic, is that you can see that it didn't have the same budget as like Alien or even The Exorcist that came years before it. And it doesn't look near as good as, and I'll mention something about that in a second, but there is just a feeling that everybody wanted to be there. And I know, and we can get into it later so I don't throw all the facts out that I learned from watching it with commentary, but it was a very difficult shooting process, like physically and mentally. And then since I alluded to The Exorcist, and then I'll shut up, it was hard to get the studio's approval at first for it, because the movie was what the studio referred to as 20 minutes of build and 60 minutes of The Exorcist. And they were like, you can't have that much relentless stuff for that extended period of time.
Like gore and violence, you mean?
Yeah. And he said, well, it's kind of what the plan was, so you're going to get what you're going to get. And look where it got him.
I mean, hey, it definitely succeeded for him, because that is absolutely incredible that it did so well overseas. I want to go ahead and throw it to Benny. Tell me when the first time you saw this movie was, actually. Let me mess it up.
I would say the first time I probably ever saw this movie was low-key like a few years ago, because I didn't know about it until like, I believe it was like one of my friends from college that asked me to like, they're like, oh, have you ever seen The Evil Dead? And I was like, no, I've never even heard that it was even a thing. But then when I watched it, I realized there were multiple things. One, that there were certain references that my friends were always saying that were coming from that movie, and I didn't even understand. And I'll get into that a little bit later on. But that, and then also this movie, like The Evil Dead, the first one, was a really, really big one that really kind of got me into a lot more, because got me into like that type of horror movies and stuff. Let's say that
It's
type of horror
called
movies.
Splatter, I think, right?
Yes. Yes, that's what. Yeah, that was what really got me like into it. And it's not that it's like my absolute favorite. We'll get into that part as well, but it's that it just like kind of worked out the way that it should, and it made me really kind of love that type of movie. So, yeah, it was really good. I loved it when I first saw it, and I watched it again recently, like actually yesterday. Watched it again yesterday, and then watched the second one. To it was yesterday into today.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. All right. Odds odd. As you guys know, Odds Odd over here is not necessarily the biggest fan of gore and all that sort of stuff in video games and in movies, and that's one of the reasons why he's on this podcast is because of that. And
because I'm stupid. Hey,
did you switch? You switched your microphone?
I did, yeah. It keeps every time I like even knock my cable, it gets unplugged. So I'm
Alright,
trying
fair
to
enough.
order a new cable as we speak.
Sure. No worries. I want you to. So as the resident, what's the word? Not the,
Resident idiot. Like, just,
sure. We'll say it. As the resident idiot, what did you think of this movie? The first one specifically.
The first one, I actually spoke to my dad about this because I met up with my parents today for lunch, and what he told me, which is sort of something that I agree with, is it just sort of feels a lot like like the bad guys died and then they came back to life and then they died and came back to life, and it sort of feels like a movie that was just like never gonna end to me.
Interesting.
Like because it could have. Like, because it could have just kept on going on like that forever, right?
And it's funny that you say that with a runtime of 85 minutes, but go on.
Yeah, no, exactly. One of the shortest movies I've ever watched, and it felt like one of the longest. But yeah, I don't think it was a bad movie. Obviously, you know, the acting was still good. There was still quite a bit of gore that I wasn't a massive fan of, but
yeah, I'll tell you. I'm gonna interrupt real quick. I streamed this to Odds for him to watch it the first time, and he had his face cam on, and seeing him react to near the end of this movie when all the corpses start like dissolving was something that I wish. Yeah, something that I wish I had recorded so we could see here, but I'm not gonna do that to him. But it was definitely like gold, and seeing. I'll give you a little fun fact on that, Odds, is that the mush coming out of the corpses at the end was made of oatmeal, snakes, guts made out of marshmallow strings, and Madagascar cockroaches.
Oh, so, nice!
That
makes it so much worse.
So I think the part that made that you reacted most strongly to was probably the oatmeal coming out of the like this arm sleeve looked like cheese.
I was just like, what the hell is that? That's not that's not even.
And Johnathan said something last week, if I'm not mistaken, that just because it was a low budget, it's like, what are they doing? Like, what are they trying to do here? And it almost makes it even more
gross than like
exactly.
The real thing almost.
And Odds, you can take it from there and tell me how you thought about that scene specifically in regards to what Johnathan had said.
I just didn't know what was going on, man. Like, I was just like, it was all just like I sort of knew what was happening, right? Like the pages were burnt, and then they like all started dying. But I was like, well, I think blood came out of them, which was sort of fine, it's sort of normal. But then that cheese stuff came out of like their arms and stuff, and I was just like scientifically or spiritually, what the fuck is like what is that supposed to be? But I mean, it grossed me out anyway, so you know. I don't know. I wasn't having a fun time because I was grossed out and I was confused. So.
Yeah, and I kind of saw that, and that's one of the reasons why after we saw that, and then I decided to watch the second movie, I thought to myself, that we kind of need to talk about these two together, and we'll explain why. I'm gonna keep it to the first one just for a little while. We're probably gonna go longer on the second one, just to be frank with you. We'll probably talk about that one a lot more. All right, because I just have so much more to say about that one.
But it's a better movie.
Yeah, it really is. And I think it's, again, this movie, because I haven't stated my opinion, is I did like this movie. I didn't think it was bad. I think it is very ambitious, I feel like, with the amount of money that it has and the things that it tries to do. Definitely not all of it works, but there are a couple of good moments, like when Ash is in front of the mirror and his hand like goes through the mirror and it's like into the water and the mirror turns into like a liquid. I thought that was really cool, and yeah, like it was shot really well, because if you look really hard, you can see that Bruce Campbell's hair like changes a little bit and it looks like it's fallen down a little bit, but it's very, very minuscule, and it actually looks pretty good for what they were trying to get across. I thought that was a really cool moment, although upstaged that moment in the second one with an even better one. But it's like, I don't know, man. It did feel like it took itself too seriously, and that's what I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of with the resources that Raimi had. The tone just felt like it couldn't be decisive, because there were moments when it wanted to be funny, and then moments where it was like trying to be 100% serious, and like the tonal switch was kind of disconnected.
That's kind of the thing with that first one, and this is gonna involve a direct mention of the remake, without diving into the remake, but the tone of that first movie was supposed to be serious. They wanted to make a horror movie, and like obviously not a lot of people were outright terrified. It became known as kind of like this camp classic, but so that was when Fede Alvarez in 2013 remade the movie. It was technically, though it's technically a few things, but his idea was take the thing that they were going for in the first movie and make this movie that. So there isn't comedy in the 2013 version. It is serious. It's one of the most brutal movies you're ever going to see.
Really?
And yeah, it's oof. So he said, I have the resources and the money to kind of do what Sam was trying to do back then. So that's why there's such a weird tonal confusion, because to us in 2021, it's like, oh, this is goofy as hell, but they thought they were making a different movie.
Well, and to be fair, like with the money they had, like a lot of the prosthetics were like, they were pretty impressive with what they were trying to do, and what like, again, what they had, like the like the face makeup, like they were wearing pretty much masks like that were made out of, I'm assuming, liquid latex and then designed and everything.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. The contacts, I don't know what I'm saying, but were straight up white glass lenses that they could only wear 15 minutes at a time, and they would run short. They would be running scenes over and over, and the lead actress, because she transforms first and they lock her in the cellar,
Ash's sister,
she just got to a point where she wanted the days to be over, so she would just continue to wear them past the 15 minutes and just like, let's go. That's what I meant when I was saying it's physically difficult for them as well, because all of them at some point, other than Ash, have to throw in these glass contacts that they literally can't see out of.
That is nuts, dude. I can see Benny squirming over there.
Oh yeah, golly. Oh, as soon as you said that, I was like, okay, my eyes. I've had contacts and everything before, so I understand that fully. Oh my gosh, but glass?
Yeah, that sounds nothing but pain and suffering. And I think that actually happened a lot on that film set, if I'm not mistaken, between not just the actors, and it also transferred a little bit into the sequel, I hear, from the research that I picked up. It wasn't nearly as bad, but I see that Sam Raimi passed out quite a few times on the set of the first one. And he was just like, because he was working himself so hard to try and make this happen. And it goes back to what Johnathan was saying about the only reason that this movie happened is by sheer will. And you can kind of see that, because it looks, and from what I read, like there was a lot of crazy shit going on set. Like for example, Bruce Campbell had apparently, this is a story, it could be a lie, that he said just to kind of like, but it said that he'd never really smoked marijuana before, and on set they were smoking real marijuana, and the reason why is because Bruce Campbell saw, I think it was Jack Nicholson's performance in a different movie, I forget what it was, where it is said that Jack Nicholson smoked like 47 joints before he filmed the scene. And yeah, and Bruce Campbell thought to himself, hey, if that's what Jack Nicholson did, then maybe if I do that, I can give an amazing performance. And it didn't happen because he goes on to say that that's when he decided that, that's when Sam Raimi decided it was the perfect time to shoot Ash having a mental breakdown. And it apparently he had a very tough time with that. But... yeah, I think my biggest issue with the first movie is definitely the tonal issue, it's not decisively one tone because it tries to be scary, but it's like there's moments like, and I'll get to it because because Sam Raimi, and I think this is perfectly okay because Sam Raimi did this to his own movie. He abridged the first movie into the second one. I'm gonna go ahead and give you my version of the Evil Dead, and I'll tell you, because there's so many moments on here where I laughed and I don't think I was supposed to. and that's why it's so like tonally such a weird choice to me. I want to go ahead and I have a whole section of notes and we'll do a little abridged thing, and feel free to stop me at any time if you want to chime in and say some stuff, but this is the plot through my eyes. So I'm gonna read word for word off my notes here. Ash looking out the car had me dead. Immediately, they're crossing that bridge, and he looks out and he's like, and he closes the door. And I think again that's supposed to be like scary for him, but it's like it's just his facial expressions. Bruce Campbell is too funny, dude.
He wasn't a good actor back then. That's
no. And look at the sick ass unibrow on Bruce Campbell, dang son. And I'm reading word for word because I've got stuff's misspelled and everything, so it's gonna be fun. Dramatic zoom, and then eyes, which is I think where Bruce Campbell is giving, or Ash is giving the necklace to Linda, and they're sitting there, and it's just the real close up shot of their eyes, and it's just. As they're both looking away and looking back, and I don't know, man. Like, why did they think this was scary? Cause come on, man, come on. It's just so tonally goofy.
Well, the 80s was like satanic panic, and so anything you made that was like remotely satanic, which this movie's not just remotely satanic, the whole freaking thing's about demons, but people just like their panties got in a knot and there's hysteria. I mean, I would venture to say it's probably why it didn't do that well over here, because
why did it do so well overseas then? Like,
I don't know, they talk about learning that the international market is super important, and that in America we never talk about the importance of the international market, but then like Sam says, if it wasn't for the international market, they never would have got the chance to turn the property into what it is today. So lesson is that the international movie market is a big boost. I mean, look at what China watches. Like, we think that we watch a lot of Marvel. I think that China, it like destroys the Marvel numbers every time a Marvel movie drops.
I think
and they're the only reason World of Warcraft the movie, or Warcraft the movie, China's the only reason that movie made any money.
Yeah, and they love the Transformers movies over there, the Fast and the Furious movies over there, and they rake it in on the international box offices. It's and thankfully it allowed Raimi to pursue making a sequel and then create an entire franchise based off of it, which and I'm gonna be real with you guys. The first movie had my interest where I was like, okay, I see what he's trying to do here. I'll check out the second one. But the second one had me in. I was invested. And I see odds nodding over there, and I don't want to get too close into the Evil Dead 2 conversation. Let me do this plot stuff. Damn, she went to check out on the noise. She goes outside to check on the noise. That is horror movie rule number 1. You do not do that. If you've ever seen Scream, you know that there's rules to surviving a horror movie. Fair enough, that movie wasn't out yet. Right? Yeah, exactly. One of the cinematography things that I do want to say that was kind of cool that I thought was the ground was crooked after he parks the car and he gets out of the car to look at the bridge, and like they step out of the car and then the whole like camera shifts to like the left a little bit, like the ground itself is crooked and they're walking on crooked ground. I thought that was cool. It's like he's got all these cool ideas, and obviously with money he can do them. So Achilles heel ? It's the pencil into the ankle.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
Odds, I want your gore input over here. You remember when the demon takes the pencil and shoves it right into I think it's Linda's ankle?
Yeah. I wasn't affected by it much, to be honest.
Okay.
Obviously, I didn't like it, but sort of when you look at it and then you compare it to all of the other cool things that happened in this movie,
Especially later
on, I was fine.
It's
was
more tame.
That was basic stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's one of the most realistic, even though it's the most tame.
Right.
Like it's the one that I see and I go, "Ooh, fuck, that would hurt." Everything else, I'm like, "What the fuck, oatmeal?"
Exactly. Second time the moon has a shadow or something. I noticed that then this continued in the second one where they kept blowing like smoke over the moon. I was like this black smoke. Eyes part 2. I don't remember what. Oh no, I remember what that was. It was what's going on with her eyes? What's happened to her eyes? And she's in the cellar. She's like, and she's just. I was like, why is Sam Raimi's like obsessed with eyes in this movie? I noticed. I don't know why, but. And then slowest response to a scream ever. I think Linda's in the other room and she screams, and then Scotty and Ash just look at each other and they're like. And that's like literally the exact speed that they get up, because I'll tell you what, if my girlfriend was in the other room and she like screamed in a situation like this where one of our friends is a demon in the cellar, I'm getting up and I'm running over there. But these guys,
Linda again.
Yeah, exactly.
Screaming.
In quotations, I have me when I stub my fucking toe, and I think that was the moment where one of the other girls gets stabbed, and she's in the full demon prosthetic makeup, and she looks at the camera and she's like. And I swear, dude, it's moments like this where I'm like, why is this? He thought this was scary. It's so funny to me. But right after that, they chop her body up, and I say, Jesus Christ, pulsating body.
Oh yeah, they cut all her limbs off.
And it's like
part?
boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
It's like the whole body is beating. Smoky Moon, the Re-Reckoning. I think that means that there was another Smoky Moon scene.
Dude, now we should make a film called Smoky Moon: The Reckoning.
Just to have the sequel be The Re-Reckoning. I think that's a fantastic idea. I've got tasty jelly, and I have to imagine that that's got to be when Ash cuts Linda's head off, and the goose and the blood is just spewing directly into his mouth. I said, "Oh my God, she's a synthetic." In parentheses, that's an Alien reference, and then because I think she's spitting out milk, and that too as well. She's going crazy. And then immediately after, a second synthetic, and I said in parentheses, that's an Aliens reference, and cool ass shot of the grave with the beheaded demon. I thought that was really cool actually, where Linda's head is like chopped off and it's sitting on the ground, and you see the cross grave as Ash is walking away, and the shot itself was actually framed really cool. And you see that obviously Sam Raimi does have a lot of talent here, and he's got ideas. I definitely don't think this is his best work. It definitely helped him create what he wanted to do later on. But he's definitely got potential, and I think that's one of the biggest things I took away from this movie is that it's got so much potential. Go ahead, Jonathan.
It's random, but I'm a forgetful person. But this one's actually for odds. Odds. I don't. You may already know this because you are a Marvel nerd, but you know he's directing Doctor Strange, right?
Yes, I was actually
Very
the one who brought up that fact to Side of Games the other
Very
day
excited.
because I gave it a cheeky bit of a research because I was told that Mr. Campbell was going to star in it, which I was thinking because I already knew that Raimi was going to be the director, so I was like, that's kind of like I wonder what character he would play. So I was curious, so I researched it, and apparently he's just going to be a cameo. And apparently he's a cameo in a lot of Sam Raimi movies, just because like they were friends from like school and stuff. So yeah, because apparently Doctor Strange 2 is supposed to be like a proper horror movie as well. I don't know if you knew that, but it's supposed to be a proper horror movie. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I am as well. I think the reason he's probably in that movie is because he was in the original Spider-Man movie. There's a lot of like
He was, yeah.
Yeah, he played like an usher or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. It's been a long time since I've seen those movies. But I imagine he's probably going to play the same exact role, which will be interesting.
That'd be really funny if it's like a multiverse like joke or like reference.
I think it's got to be, honestly. But
Yeah,
this is obviously not a Marvel podcast, so we don't want to get too deep into it. But there was no, don't worry. There was a sick ass music for a second as he's running into the house, and I think it was the strongest music that this entire movie had, where he's like running away from the grave, and it's got like this techno kind of da na 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 as he's running away, and it sounds really sweet. I say, hey, this is in italics, bloodbath, and I think that's gotta mean that somebody got bathed in blood, right? Because I can't think of any other reason I'd type that. Dramatic zoom, electric zoomaloo. I think that's probably just more dramatic zoom because to me personally, and I'm sure this will translate to every movie that we end up watching and talking about, nothing fucking makes me laugh more than dramatic zoom in it out of nowhere. Like it happened in The Shining when Danny turns around and it's just like right into his face, and that it makes me laugh every single time without fail. It's just so funny to me. Blocked door but wide open window. I think when Ash is fighting the Evil Dead, and his like they're trying to get through the door, but the window right next to it is completely open because they just smashed it. I have Scotty turned into a motorcycle.
Wait, what? I just watched that this morning, and I'm not sure what you're talking about.
I think it's because when Scotty changes and he sits up, it sounds exactly like a motorcycle sound effect in the background.
Okay.
Like I said, this is just the ramblings of a madman, guys. I said, what was the necklace was a chain, like the chain of the necklace was turned into a skull, and that makes like an appearance later in the second movie as well. If you notice that when he's like trying to get the Book of the Dead into the fire, he grabs that necklace, but when it's sitting there, the chain itself is like in the shape of a skull, like the way that the chain falls.
I did not notice that.
Oh yeah, you should look at that. It's definitely because he does the same exact thing in the second one. I have super gross all of this. Imagine that's got to be the ending there. And yeah, seriously, the ending, the fucking scream into the slapstick circus music was something real special, I'll tell you. Why? I don't know. Jonathan, do you have any enlightenment on that at all?
I don't. Maybe by the end of the process or editing, they were like, I don't know. Maybe they realized what the movie was by the time they had finished editing, and so that's what they went with. Because what's weird about the commentary, to harken back to that, is that I usually when you watch a commentary, I'll use like The Lighthouse, for example, because that's a very good commentary. He talks about the movie mostly scene to scene, unless he's still talking about the previous one by the time the next one ends, if it's shorter or whatever. In the Evil Dead commentary, Sam, the producer Robert, and Bruce, they literally the whole time almost never referenced what was on the screen. It was them talking about how they got the movie distributed and then some of the shooting process, but never tying it to what they were seeing or what we were seeing on the screen. So it was more like listening to a podcast while watching the movie on mute in the background.
Okay.
So a lot of the scenes that I was like watching it to get fun facts about or whatever, nothing. I just learned all about the distribution process and how painful making the movie was.
Does any of that translate? I know that there is some distribution stuff that we'll talk about when we get to the second movie, but did you only watch the first one with director's commentary?
Yeah, because I wanted to watch the second movie and enjoy it because I like it so much. So I was like, I'm not going to do the commentary right now.
And honestly, if everybody agrees, does anyone else have anything to say about the first movie? Because I kind of want to get right into the second one, guys. Because
let's switch to the second.
Oh, that is nice. Look, can you hold that up right into the middle of the camera?
I gotta do the slip cover again. So it's got the slip cover.
Yeah, nice.
And then the slip cover censors the severed hand of Ash from the second movie, and so that it doesn't spoil it. And then if I turn it over, we get a sexy image of Ash standing on top of the car.
That's fucking awesome, dude. That is sick,
dope.
dude. That is an awesome picture. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's get right into the Evil Dead 2 because holy fucking shit, guys. I'm going to jump the gun a little bit and get impressions first, and then I'll give you some basic info. I'm fucking hot on this movie, guys. I love this movie. This is the first time I've ever seen either of these two movies. And obviously they're older, but man, everything just worked so well for me. And I obviously have some issues with the canon of this film series, and we'll talk about that. But man, I fucking loved everything about this, from the tone change to making it actually like a comedy / horror, slapstick elements that is responsible from Scott Spiegel, I believe, is the reason why they fully embrace the slapstick comedy, because he actually co-wrote this with Sam Raimi, and it shows, and it really, really, really works well. I love everything from the first 7 minutes or so is a direct recap of the first movie in a way. We'll talk about that in depth, but it goes right on after that, and they do just some amazing things in this movie that I was laughing. I was like, wow, that's so cool. Like, there's the Groovy moment is amazing. It's just so badass. So I want to go ahead and let Odds give his impressions first, just because, and again, this isn't usually his normal type of movie, but hit it.
Put me last if you can.
I got you.
Well, the second one. Fucking hell. I mean, it was essentially, because I think one thing that you've said, Sally, is it was supposed to be a sequel, but it just feels like a remake. Because it was essentially the same thing, just just better, in my opinion. Oh Lord, I don't even know where to start, man. It's fucking. It reminded me of Beauty and the Beast when all of the furniture started laughing. It reminded me of Iron Man when he suited up with the chainsaw and the shotgun. It reminded me of something else as well that I can't remember. Resident Evil, that's what it reminded me of Resident Evil 7 with sort of the creepy old woman.
And definitely that big face that comes in at the end through the door is also very reminiscent. Spoilers for Resident Evil.
Yeah, definitely. And it just was like, I don't know, man. Like, because I think when he went like this.
the severed hand.
Like, can you imagine chopping off your own hand because it's demented, and then it crawls away and it just flips you off and then just runs away? Like, I would just be like, fair enough.
I think, to put it in my words, I think that this movie is just fun. I think that's why it shines so well.
Yeah, I don't think it's supposed to. I don't even think they were trying to make it scary most of the time. Like, surely not.
There is a couple moments though that I thought were actually really creepy, and I want to talk about those after.
Yeah, there are some moments for sure.
Yeah,
There are some
we'll talk
scary
about it,
moments, but it's not
definitely.
purely a horror movie. Definitely not.
No.
I will swallow your soul.
Ah, I'll swallow your soul. I'll swallow your soul. Benny, go ahead and hit us with it.
So I really love the second movie, especially in comparison. But I just love the fact that they really did kind of like take all of the aspects that seemed like it should have been funny from the first one, and all the like it actually truly just embraced it more than anything. That was the biggest thing that I really loved about it. Like of course, like you said, there were funny moments. There were not like non-intentional necessarily funny moments as well, but there were also like actual scary moments. There were like moments that you were just like, oh wow, okay, I was not expecting that at all, and it just was really good at the fact that they really kind of embraced it, because like I assume they probably got like the feedback from the first movie and everything, and they were like, oh, I'm gonna definitely just go with this now, and I loved it. I loved how it went, so it's just so good. I loved it.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
All right. So the reason I was saying I was go last so that then we can bleed kind of right into the is it a remake or is it a true sequel kind of conversation, because that blends in with how I feel about it. So I've seen this movie probably something just shy of like 10 times, and the last time I watched it was the first time, I don't know what I've been doing all these times, that I noticed that they're going into a house that somebody owns without permission. They're just going into this house because, hey, we should stop here, and that's fine. And she brings it up, and when she brought it up, that was the first time that I was like, wait a second, they're not supposed to be in this fucking house? That's wild. And so then that's when I text you, and I was like, I just realized it's not him going, let's go back to the same cabin I went to before where everybody died. That makes perfect sense. And so like it gave a little more credence to the fact that they are in this house. But Ash has seen the tape recorders before, and he knows that when you hit play and it starts speaking in a language that ain't your own, go ahead and just hit stop, because bad things are going to happen. But Ash just lets it happen. And that's where you automatically suspend all like disbelief that you would have in the story, because you're just like, all right, well, this guy is stupid enough to go through the same exact thing that he went through in the first movie, and this time it's going to cost him another girlfriend, and
with the same name.
Yeah, with the same name.
Ah,
because he's
nah.
got a very specific type apparently.
I think that's bullshit.
And so, which comes up in the TV series, and it's Sam Raimi finding his, pun intended, his groove, and like he understands now, oh, this is what my makeup aesthetic is gonna be. This is what my comedic take is gonna be like. Thanks with a little bit with Scott's help. Bruce kind of finds like, okay, this is who Ash is. About halfway through the movie, we see like, oh, Ash is a little bit of a cocky, like, okay, I see a little bit more of that now. We didn't get that the first time. And by the time Ash has to go and cut his hand off, you're either in for the whole ride or you're either out for the whole ride, because from then on the movie just becomes insanity, and it's the right kind of insanity. I love it. It's become an enduring classic. And fun fact, before his girlfriend dies, she's looking at the book and they reveal the entire plot for the third movie, because Army of Darkness, he wanted to be the second movie, but the studio didn't trust in some weird fantasy horror, and so they made him essentially do this. And that's why they open the book and they talk about this plot for like, here, this guy saved the people from the dead, and then he's like, obviously it didn't work, and like you see the pictures and it's a guy in a blue denim like thing.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, and they basically in like 3 sentences tell you the entire plot of the third movie.
No shit.
Because Sam already knew that was the movie he wanted to make. And so that's funny. It took me a long time to see the third movie in its entirety, and now that I have, it's honestly, you think Evil Dead 2 is fun? Army of Darkness is one of the most fun movies I've ever seen. And I say that having just finally sat through the entire thing a week ago. So Evil Dead 2 is really, and Corey Seeley wanted to do the movie before just the first movie. And
You can call me Corey, it's fine.
If you hadn't been clear about that with the audience yet, and I was like, dude, watch the second movie and maybe think about that again. And that's how we ended up where we're at, because the second movie is really where the entire series just lifts off and takes on like the soul of what the property becomes. And now I want to hear what you have to say, good sir.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I want to go ahead and give some basic info just to make sure that we're all covering the bases. Of course, this is actually 1 minute shorter than The Evil Dead. Is a runtime of 84 minutes instead of 85 minutes. It was released on March 13th, 1987. Of course, directed by Sam Raimi. It was written by Sam Raimi and Scott Spiegel this time, like I was saying. Producers the same, Robert Tappert, again. Budget of $3.5 million this time. And a box office of $10.9 million. So it made a lot less than the first one. But I definitely think this is a better movie. Obviously, money doesn't always show that, because there are certain movies nowadays that make shitloads of money that I don't think are very good movies. But we won't go there. Of course, starring Bruce Campbell as Ash again, Sarah Berry as Annie, Nobi, Dan Hicks as Jake, who fuck. Cass, not the actor, but like the character. Fucking sake. Cassie Wesley as Bobby Joe, Denise Bixler as Linda 2. Fuck's sake. And I wanted to give a special little credit to Ted Raimi as possessed Henrietta, because man, that guy goes hard as the possessed mom.
That was who Ted is. I never quite figured out who Ted was. That makes sense now.
Yeah. The music was by Joseph LaDuca again, and cinematography was by Peter Deming, who is most popularly known for Screams 1, 2, 3, and 4. Not 1, but 2, 3, and 4. So that's what the cinematography was by that guy. Production company was Renaissance Pictures. Then it was distributed by Rosebud Releasing Corporation, which has a funny background story. Johnathan, I don't know if you know that, but Rosebud Releasing Corp is actually Dino De Laurentiis, which is a famous Italian producer who produced King Kong, Dune 1984, Hannibal. He did all these, like, he did all the Hannibal Lecter movies after Silence of the Lamb, and he's very, very famous. But here's the fun fact about that, is that due to the violence and gore in the movie, Raimi knew it would be given an X rating. And at the time, Dino De Laurentiis had a deal that stopped him from releasing X-rated movies. So they decided to create Rosebud Releasing Corporation to get around that deal and produce the movie anyway and have it distributed that way. Yeah, and Raimi kind of owes that to Stephen King, actually, because King is the one who called up Dino De Laurentiis and kind of put him through, hey, you should really make this movie, because he loved the first one, as I said earlier, and he kind of made a couple pieces of the puzzle move together so that Raimi could make the sequel, and and kind of push everything forward, and he has Stephen King to thank for that. So I thought that was really cool. But really, a lot of the slapstick is basically from Scott Spiegel, because he was brought in to refine the script and is noted as emphasizing that slapstick humor. And the fun fact I wanted to talk about is that scene with the hand. Spiegel had created a short film prior called Attack of the Helping Hand, which is about the hamburger helper mascot. And that hamburger helper mascot, if you are not familiar with that mascot, he's the hand, and he helps you make that hamburger helper. It's the white glove with the eyes and the mouth. Spiegel had made this short film where that mascot goes on a violent rampage. and that scene with Ash's hand was influenced greatly by Spiegel's short film. So I thought that was pretty fucking sweet. One more for you. This has to do with the rights issues. Why? We'll tie this into how this movie starts, because this movie starts with, in my opinion, a 7-minute abridged version of the first movie. And I think that is accurate for a couple reasons, because they changed a bunch of things, but the reason why this happens and why Raimi decided to do this and why it's like, yeah, is it a sequel? Is it a reboot? Is it a remake? Is it, like, what is this? He claims it's a sequel, and it is in a way. It's kind of like a requel. It's like a remake sequel type shit, because in the first 7 minutes, he does retell the entire plot of The Evil Dead in a different way. Linda and Ash show up to the cabin, it seemingly like they've never been here before, and it's like it is pretty weird and strange that it's just those two. But they have the whole necklace scene where it's like, hey, I just gave you this necklace, do you like it? And they do the same exact shit where Linda gets taken by the demon and dies in the exact same way with the head chopping off with the shovel, and then the cross happens again. And the recordings, and it's like, whoa, what is going on here? Is Ash a giant moron? And it kind of seems like it. But the reason why all that shit happened is because Sam Raimi didn't own the rights to Evil Dead anymore. He did not own those rights to his own movie, so he couldn't use any of the footage from the first movie to do flashbacks. The rights were owned by New Line Cinemas still. And that's why he had to do this. That's why he decided, hey, let's go ahead and just remake the movie, redo all this shit, and then we'll just tell it ourselves. And I think it leads to a lot of weird shit because, like I said, you can tell me this is a sequel all day long, Sam Raimi, but I just don't believe you. But yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, he's the author, right? He's the auteur here. He's the guy in charge. But come on, man, the evidence. What kind of shit, man?
Because I can't remember now, and I just watched it today. But was there? This is very explicit. But it is a moment that was so famous that The Evil Dead in 2013.
Are you talking about the tree moment?
Yeah, that's not in the second one, is it?
So in the first one, yeah, she is. I think Cheryl, right, is assaulted, like sexually assaulted by the Evil Dead's like tree spirit. The actual vine branches and everything. It's terrible. I thought I had a fun fact here about that Sam Raimi actually, I guess I didn't save it, but Sam Raimi actually, oh no, it was back here. Sam Raimi regrets the infamous tree assault scene, quoted as saying it was unnecessarily gratuitous and a little too brutal. He said, my judgment was a little wrong at that time. Because in the first movie, Cheryl is explicitly sexually assaulted by a tree. And it's pretty fucked up. And they do kind of remake that sequence in this movie without the sexual assault aspect of it, where Baba Joe, where is she, Baba Joe? Is taken by the tree and dragged through the forest and smacked around, but she is not assaulted in that way. And I thought that was a much better choice, because that was definitely like some real fucked up shit there. But yeah, anyway, I again
brings it back.
Yeah, I really love this movie, and it's interesting the differences in the recap, because they show up here and it's just Linda and Ash. So they make no reference to Ash's sister, Scotty, what was her name? Betty? No. Shelly. Yeah, so they make no reference to any of them, and it's just like they didn't exist. And he shows up. This is my issue calling it a sequel, is because he shows up with a girl named Linda too. It has the same necklace. He experiences the same plot points. That's my biggest point of contention in this movie. I love everything else about this though. Benny, I want to go ahead. You go ahead, Jonathan.
I was gonna say I don't want to take away from Benny who's next, but just to that specifically. The TV series itself, which again only 3 seasons, actually it doesn't retcon all the stuff that you might think got retconned. It actually kind of harkens back and explains some of the holes that you've pointed out, and I think that's what's one of the things that's so great about the series, is that it does go back and kind of bridge gaps.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in watching the series now. After watching this, I'm gonna watch Army of Darkness. You think I should watch the 2013 movie before I watch the series, or does it matter?
I'm trying to think. The 2013 movie. This is okay. So the 2013 movie is technically considered canon, because Sam Raimi produced it, and they were going to. This is, I guess, a fun fact thing. They were going to make then Evil Dead 4 or 5, I guess 5, because 5 is the one that's going to be coming out now. That was a sequel to the 2013 and to Sam Raimi's original Evil Dead 2, more or less. Ash's car is actually in the 2013 version. That's not a spoiler. They show up to this cabin, and his car is literally parked out back.
Really?
And Yeah, and there's a lot of hints that this is the same cabin from the second Evil Dead movie, including the tool shed that sits out front. Then that isn't get mentioned in the series, but it wouldn't hurt to watch the remake anyway, because the remake is a great movie.
Okay.
It's brutal. It's not funny. But the TV series fully takes on the gauntlet or the mantle that was created with Evil Dead 2: An Army of Darkness, and one season of that series probably has a higher budget than any one of those movies.
Oh shit.
And it shows. But at 30 minutes an episode, it's just such a brisk watch,
wow.
and it's just so much fun.
Oh, that's not bad at all. I thought I would picture it as being like 45 to an hour usually. I guess that's what I'm conditioned to nowadays.
It's good.
Go ahead, Benny. I want to talk. What's your first impressions of like watching this movie directly after watching the first one, and then seeing all this stuff happen with the plot? That it's like, oh, what is this? What?
No, yeah. So after watching the first movie and then watching this one, I really, of course, like I said, the whole entire thing about like, it's kind of like they really kind of embraced like when there were parts when they were actually like when there were funny parts, like they kind of made it a little funnier. Like the whole entire hand thing, that whole entire thing was funny. But like it was also a thing where they kind of like really hit the nail on the head when it came to like certain actual horror aspects of it too. So like when I say that, I mean like they really, like I said before, they took what they did before and they really ran with it. So I really enjoyed watching the second one because of all like the improvements. And then when it comes to like the aspect of like the whether it's like a sequel or not, I'm kind of with you, because there are a lot of things that I can definitely argue and say that that it would not necessarily be a sequel. It really does feel like a remake. But the thing is, of course, yes, there's there's a lot of things that will actually like identify and show that it is a sequel and everything. But on the same token too, I'm still gonna keep on thinking it's a remake, because if I think it's a remake, then I'm gonna think, okay, cool. So they did one thing and they decided, oh, I'm just gonna kind of flip how we made it the first time and kind of just like work with what we actually got the responses and stuff from. So I really did love it. I loved the second movie and I mean like when I watched it the first time, I watched that one and then I watched the second one right after that, like literally the same exact day, and it was like night and day, and I loved that. Oh, not even night and day. It was more or less just like it was just a little bit more of an improvement overall.
Yeah.
So I just loved it. That's pretty much all I gotta say for that part.
I got you. I think it really comes down to it. Obviously, Raimi says that it's a sequel, so I mean, in his mind, that's what it is. But our interpretation of it is, it comes down to how you want to view this movie in relation to the Evil Dead 1. Like, you can still, of course, love the Evil Dead and love the story that is told there, but when it comes down to it, the canon of this series, I feel like, is not super necessarily important to what Raimi is trying to do. Because if you kind of ignore those canon issues and everything and just kind of buckle in for the ride, this is an extremely fun movie. And when it comes down to it, it doesn't really matter what the whole like timeline and everything is, because you can watch the Evil Dead and then the second one and then be like, okay, they're doing some weird stuff, but like what they do going forward, I have not seen with Army of Darkness. But I'll just say that like he takes it in stride and just goes for it in this movie, and I hope that the rest of them continue to do so as we I think there's a little bit of a spill going on over there, don't worry about it, as we go through and see the next couple movies, or the next movie and then the series. Me personally, I think it doesn't really matter that the canon is kind of wonky, because it's fun. It is a really fun movie. It's entertaining. I was gonna toss it over to Odds, but he seems a little preoccupied.
Odds is at odds with whatever's going on in his desk.
No, wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. I can fix this.
Oh, you're coming through your mic now.
That is so deep. I can fix this.
Nope,
All right,
now he's mute. Oh, he's back.
Hello? Okay.
Hello.
I thought like a fly was walking down my water bottle, but it was actually just a drop of water. And so I picked it up and then it just spilled everywhere. Anyway. Hello, I'm back.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry. What was the question?
I was just gonna ask you, like, between what were like your impressions of seeing this movie, like right after seeing the first one and having to deal with like this weird like plot switch.
It was definitely, well, when it, obviously I didn't really. Obviously, I'm not a massive fan of sort of either of them, to the extent which sort of you guys are. But it definitely was sort of like a nice breath of fresh air after seeing the first one. I'd say, just because it just felt easier to follow, easier to understand, easier to sort of not know what was going on. And I guess that's pretty much it. I mean, at the end of the day, they are both similar movies. That I feel like that goes without saying. But obviously, the second one, it's more funny, had more action in it. And like I say, it was just easy to follow. So yeah.
I want to talk about a couple key moments for me in the second movie that just had me completely fully invested. I think there's 3 or 4 of them. I don't know what order this is, but obviously one of the most incredible scenes in this movie is the fact when, as a result of Ash's fight with his own hand, he ends up losing. He chops his own hand off, and then by the end of the movie, he has this. What Odds was really comparing it to was an Iron Man suit up scene, as he is putting together. He attaches the fucking chainsaw to his hand, and now has this literally a chainsaw hand, which is the most ridiculous shit I've ever seen. And I am just so on board with every single aspect of it. He attaches it in there, he pulls it back, and it goes, and he chops off the barrel of the shotgun he's got, does the shotgun spin, puts it over his back, and he's like, groovy. It's fucking, dude, man, like it is.
It really reminds me of the first Iron Man movie where he sort of makes his first suit, and it's sort of like, it's not a very good suit, but it does the job, right? It does the job of what he needs it to do, and because I mean, he clearly, the guy, if we're getting sort of realistic with it, I guess, sorry, his name is Ash, right?
Yeah.
Like, he is clearly like quite smart when it comes to engineering. To some extent, right? If
randomly, right?
Right, yeah, no, exactly. So, like, if he had a penthouse and a bunch of money, I'm sure he could, make something even better.
And who knows? We've got plenty of content going forward with this whole series,
no,
so
exactly.
he might do some crazy shit. I'm sure he does. So, I think that's one of my personal favorite scenes of the entire movie. I don't know how how you two up there are feeling about it, but. That's Benny and Jonathan, yeah.
The second movie is just everything top to bottom. From the time he, like I said a little bit ago, from the time he cuts his hand off, and it's just outright insanity the rest of the way. Even when one thing they highlight in the second movie that I don't remember them highlighting in the first movie, but it also makes clear why the title is Dead by Dawn, is that come daylight, the evil dead, they go to sleep or something. I guess they take a nap. But Ash is completely possessed, and then the sun hits him, and slowly the evil dead like goes away.
How do they do that effect, you think? Where they've got the zoom again in on his eyes. Sam Raimi loves eyes. Where he's right in there, and you see like the fog kind of goes away and shifts out of his eyeballs.
Stop motion, I would say, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
When the smoke was like reversing, that just looks like they shot it and they just reversed it.
Yeah, but I mean in his eyeball though, Odds, when he's looking up at the sun and he's still a demon right in the beginning, you see his eyes like go from smoky to or from all the way white back to his normal self, and it's an interesting shot. You think it'd probably have to be stop motion just because that's what they had available to them.
Sorry, I think the wrong thing.
And the stop motion in the second movie. They mentioned briefly, I believe, in the commentary of the first movie, and so when Lisa in the second movie, when zombie Lisa comes back to life and she does her
I think, but yes.
Linda, she does her dance out by that tree. And
I haven't.
It's so very like Nightmare Before Christmas, and I immediately, and I didn't look it up because I forgot. That's me. By the end of a 85-minute movie, I've forgotten. But I wanted to look up and see like if that stop motion team had anything to do with Nightmare Before Christmas a few years later, because she even does this playful like leap into the woods and then she's gone. And I was like, this feels like a fucking Tim Burton moment if ever there was one.
And what did you find?
I didn't look it up. That's what I'm saying.
Got you.
Like my memory's so bad that an 85-minute movie, I forgot by the end of it.
And I have a note on that exact scene where I have written the scariest thing of all time: interpretive dance. she's out there and she's literally like frolicking through the woods.
Her naked, skinless body.
I know, and it's so ridiculous, but I really love that puppetry, like, because it comes back later as not stop motion. I think it comes back as a puppet when it comes through, and her head is in like the vice grip, and she comes through with the chainsaw, and the way that thing is moving is just so fucking hilarious to me that it just, I don't know why, like the fluidity of the movements and the way that it's like trying to move the chainsaw, and then the chainsaw gets back up into the body and it slices it. I think something about the way that they did that whole thing was just hilarious, which it shouldn't be because it's pretty fucked up, but
it is fucked up, but they found a way to make it funny.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the things I love, and it's Odds mentioned the moment in his recap at the very beginning, the scene where all the furniture starts laughing and all the inanimate object. I fucking love that scene, and it highlights the style that Raimi takes in his horror movies when they show the deer on the wall.
It's my favorite moment.
Oh, it's so dope. And that style carries over to the movie he directed years and years later that is not at all tied to Evil Dead, but Drag Me to Hell. And there's a scene in that I will not spoil, because if you haven't seen Drag Me to Hell, like, please, for the love of God, maybe watch that before you even watch anything else Evil Dead, because it's just that fucking awesome.
Okay.
But there's a scene in Drag Me to Hell where was I a teenager still? I may have been a teenager still. When I saw Drag Me to Hell, there's a moment where I was like, he kept his style from Evil Dead, even though it's not the same universe, and I love that. I'm looking forward to Doctor Strange. This is just a moment of me just me patting Sam Raimi on the back, because
me too.
If he's allowed, if Disney lets this dude use any of his style from his horror movies in Doctor Strange, then it's just gonna be so fun. Especially if any of the makeup looks like a Google-eyed, like, white eye. If that shows up, I'm gonna be a fangirl. Skip being a fanboy. I'm turning into a fangirl, and NSYNC has just showed up. Like, that's gonna be me when I watch that movie.
Can you imagine
if that happens?
Can you imagine Doctor Strange's hand getting cut off and he flips himself off?
I hope he does. I hope he freaking
can
does.
you
It gets
imagine?
stuck in a portal, falls off, and it's like, you left behind, and flips his ass
That
off.
would be the way to do it with the
Stuck
portal.
in the Arctic.
Oh my god. I think, yeah. I definitely am excited to that. Maybe we'll have to do just another Marvel podcast on that when it comes out. But yeah, we'll see.
I just got goosebumps.
I just got hard. What do you mean?
Not officially announced. But I think I just, besides that, to go back to the moment with all the furniture dancing, as Benny shows us his AC/DC Jesus shirt. Wow, that's actually pretty cool. Is he frozen? Is he just gone? Okay. So perfect. Nice. Be ready on standby. Odds just to pull up a that wallpaper just in case. Not yet, but just be ready.
Okay.
Benny may have to leave us at some point. I am maybe thinking that it might have just happened. But
Oh no, he's still here.
Is he?
Yeah.
But to go back to it, there he is. To go back to that scene with all the furniture and everything, I thought that was really, really fucking, like, just awesome. The way, like, he's going through things. I think it's I can't remember. I think it's after he fights with his hand for the most part, and then he's like looking around with the shotgun, and he looks at the deer on the wall, and the deer's like, And he's got like this crooked ass face, and it's like, and then it just starts laughing, and the way that the puppetry is done on the deer face is just so hilarious. It's like one of those puppets that you find in like Spencer's or like at a smoke shop, where it's just the hand puppet, and you can kind of like move the face in like weird little things where it's like you see those sharks and exactly the rubber hand puppets. That's exactly what it looks like, and I bet you that's almost exactly what it was.
You and Odds both have just go ahead.
It's just it's just so funny to me. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you and Odds both combined now has reminded me of something else. The reason I think that, and I think Odds will enjoy it more than the first two, will like Army of Darkness is, and I don't remember if I said this in my text to you. Army of Darkness is like taking away its connection to Evil Dead 2. Like the plot of every medieval set Disney musical from back pre like 1980s, where it's got this weird dark vibe in it, but it's still lighthearted. And so it's funny that you just kind of you related it to Beauty and the Beast, that laughing scene, because the third movie is genuinely like that vibe from the beginning to the end of the movie. Like I was watching it going, this feels like I'm watching a rated R Disney movie from 1970, and I fucking love it.
Oh
it's
man,
so awesome.
I'm not gonna lie, I actually only watched Disney, or I only watched Beauty and the Beast for the first time this year.
oh my
So
god!
when I saw, yeah, I know it's crazy, but
No wonder it was fresh in your mind.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. That's why it was so fresh in my mind is because I only watched it like a few months ago, and it just, oh lord. It's also crazy to just sort of see how far CGI has come, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, Benny, how you felt about that scene in particular, because it's that was the moment where I was watching the movie and I just thought to myself, I'm in.
Yeah.
This is I'm in for the franchise at this point. As soon as I saw that scene, that's what got me.
Yeah, no, in all actuality, that's literally exactly where it got me as well. Because I promise you, like, of course I loved the movie up until the point, but then it was just like, that was something that just like was like, whoa, oh, okay, I like this, I'm invested, I like this. This is cool.
He turns to the camera and he's like, ah, and then he looks at the lamp and he's like, and it is just the funniest shit, dude, as the lamp is going back and forth with them. And it's like he is just losing his mind, and it just cuts so quickly to him shooting what's her name through the door, Baba Joe. Yeah, man, I think that's definitely I think the highlights of this movie for me are the suit up scene, the laughing furniture, the whole hand sequence, and then the everything with Henrietta. Literally, and I mean that. I mean everything with Henrietta, the archaeologist, Professor Nobi's wife. Literally every single scene that she's a part of, whether she is actually played as Henrietta when she's singing Mockingbird, which was actually, in my opinion, one of the actual creepy moments of the movie, where she starts singing that song, because that song is just, it's so well known, and when you sing it in that tone, in that atmosphere, in that environment, it is definitely creepy. She's over there under there, and you can see Annie being like, is that my mom? And it works. I think it's one of the most creepy parts of this movie that is not really played for comedy. And I think I was really impressed with that one. That was one of the standout scenes. That was one of those times where the tonal switch wasn't a problem for me, because they nailed it, I felt like. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but thought it was, yeah.
I was actually in the shower when we watched it the second time when that happened. But when I watched it the first time, I think the idea of, I think it sort of links with the whole thing where like some people are like scared of like children laughing and stuff.
Lullabies and stuff, yeah.
Lullabies and stuff like that, yeah. I think that's sort of, I think there's a phobia, but I can't remember what it's called officially.
Lullaphobia.
I mean, is that actually what it's called? It might be.
No, probably not. They always use some weird name.
Something more different. Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I'm afraid of small spaces. Claustrophobia.
Okay, all right.
What's the fear of long words again? It's like the longest word ever.
It is, yeah. But yeah, between I really thought everything that Henrietta was done in this movie was really awesome. Like, because Ted Raimi plays her when she's possessed, and when he comes busting out of the fruit cellar like ground, and then she's walking, she Henrietta is walking towards Ash, and she's like, "Come to me." It's just it has me dead every single time. The way that Ted Raimi is doing that voice is fucking hilarious.
Well, and the rubber monster makeup is so
Yeah.
fucking like good too. Like back then, visually, she definitely would have been terrifying in
I bet.
1987. I would have been like, oh, but also I feel kind of funny because like, what the fuck? But I was thinking today too, because you essentially see her. There's like that point where she's almost like floating or something.
Yeah, she
and
is.
Yeah, and she's
Over Annie,
basically
right?
fucking naked. Yeah, and she's basically naked. And you see her entire body, but they didn't build the private parts into the rubber
Thankfully.
suit. So so it's just like a Ken doll situation. But it's like looking at a weird blobby female Freddy Krueger, the way that they did her skin and less redness than a Freddy Krueger. And I was sitting there going, man, I love this. And yeah, and not knowing until you said it that was fucking Ted the whole time, even better. Like, I love that Sam includes Ted and everything. I think it's kind of like a Bruce situation with him. Like, Ted appears someplace and everywhere, and it's the same thing with like James Gunn and his brother. Like, his brother's always popping up in something as well, and they kind of are like kindred spirits. It's a little bit of a side note, but yeah, Henrietta is, from costume to the moments themselves, is just like a shining light in a movie full of them. Full of shining lights.
I know. And another fun fact about that is that Ted Raimi was stuck in that full cosmetic suit for so long, like hours and hours and hours on end in the heat. I think it was in I think they actually shot this in Tennessee or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's in this cabin, it's hot, and he is absolutely sweating the entire time. And there's a moment where I think he also is recorded as passing out a couple times on set from that. Man, these guys go hard for the movies, but he's sweating so much that there's a moment where Henrietta is in the air, and Ash like moves her so that way she's like this, and you can see like a entire thing of sweat come out of her ear that they kept in the movie, because it's literally just Ted Raimi sweating so profusely that when he turns his head, it all comes spewing out of the cosmetic makeup. Yeah. I thought, and to go along with that and things that they kept in the movie, the use of like cable flies in this movie is absolutely hilarious. Where Ash is chopping off arms and they go flying across screen, and they're literally just the arm hanging from a cable, and it's like and when what's his name, Annie's boyfriend, whose name I have here somewhere, is like I don't have it, I guess. I guess I didn't deem him important enough to put in here, but he gets possessed by the demon, and he's floating in the air, and you can clearly see the cable fly on his back as he's floating there, and he's dead by dawn, dead by dawn. And it's just, I don't know, man.
Shit fucking, I'll swallow your soul, swallow this, and fucking shoots him with that sawed off. Oh my god, dude, classic.
It's just, out of nowhere, this movie just, and I wrote it in the chat when I was watching it earlier. I was like, this is the birth of an action hero, where Ash is climbing out of the cellar and his denim is all ripped up, and he's actually kind of jacked under there, and he's like, half of his body is hanging out of his shirt, and he's coming out of there with the chainsaw arm, and he's like, and he calls Henrietta over, and it's like, he really is like a full-blown action hero now. Whereas in the first one, he's just kind of like this guy who's forced into this situation, and he doesn't seem like a much of an action hero. He can't even bring himself to kill Linda with the he does it eventually with the head beheading, but he can't bring himself to like chop her with his chainsaw, and he does it in this one. I think that was a fundamental change to Ash's character, that they made him a lot more confident and cocky and like more able to do things, because like I said, in the first one he wasn't able to chop up Linda, but in this one he does it. And
Is it just me? I got two things I want to bring up. One of them you're gonna like if you didn't notice it or take a note yourself. But is it just me, or from the start of this movie, even though it was only 6 years later, does he not look like his whole facial structure changed? Like, dude
Yes.
suddenly is just like, boom, chiseled face, and it's clear from the moment he shows up. I'm like, what the fuck? You're clearly the same person, but you just look like somebody cut your head from stone now.
yep, he grew up, and he definitely chiseled a little bit. What's up, Odds?
I noticed that so much, man. I wasn't gonna say it, but at the start of the movie, he just looks so basic, and then at the end, he looks like he could be. He looks like he's fucking. I don't know, man. He just
An
looks so
action
much-
hero, an
He
action
looks
hero.
like a fucking
Like the
model.
Terminator.
Yeah,
Oh, Jesus.
yeah.
But did you notice
I think I know where you're going with
after he cuts his hand off, there is one of the. It's not even subtle. If you are familiar with the property, but after he cuts his hand off, he's moving shit around inside of the cabin, and he moves a stack of books to hold the cellar door down. Now keep in mind he just cut his hand off. Did you note what the top book was called?
Oh no, I didn't think this was where you were going with it. What was it?
The top book, after he cuts his hand off, and a few seconds later he moves this stack of books on top of the cellar door, is A Farewell to Arms. Because
Oh
he just
my
cut his hand off.
god.
And I was like, no way. They freaking put A
Jeez,
Farewell
dude.
to Arms on the freaking top.
That shit, I thought everything. I don't know. Everything for this in this movie just worked so well for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna say that it's a 10 out of 10 movie because the acting is kind of off, the cinematography, the effects, everything is like off in this little way. But I'll tell you what, I had way more fun in this movie than I did with Alien, than I did with The Shining, than I did with the first Evil Dead. It was just way more entertaining and fun than any of those movies. Not to say that those movies are... It goes back to what we were talking about in the first couple of reviews, especially with The Shining. This may not be one of our favorite movies, The Shining was, but it was definitely a well-made movie, and it is definitely on the list of best movies as opposed to favorite movies. And I think this movie in particular, the sequel... the re-sequel to Evil Dead is kind of this... It is definitely on the favorite movies list as opposed to the best movies list because it is just a wild ride full of fun the entire time, and it is so entertaining, and it just brings me so much joy to watch it. I've seen it 3 times now since I first watched it, and I loved it every single time, and I noticed different things each time. I never noticed the book, but I'll tell you what. Did you notice that they paid homage, whatever you know, I'm illiterate, to his unibrow in this movie? That the entire time, from the first movie, he had that unibrow the entire movie,
Yeah.
and then in this movie, he doesn't have the unibrow anymore. But as soon as he gets covered in blood, the entire time, there is one streak of blood that connects his 2 eyebrows for the entire rest of the movie. So they literally bring it back, and they're like, all right, we know we had that big old
That's
unibrow in the
hilarious.
first one. Let's go ahead and bring it back in a different way, just to kind of pay some respect to the first movie. I thought that was fucking funny. I don't know if that's true, but like if you look at it, like bring up the Evil Dead 2 and look at any of the scenes past the point where he chops his hand off, because that's where I thought you were going with it. Because as soon as he chops his hand off, Johnathan, he gets all the blood on his face, and that's when the moment where his eyebrows now connect for the rest of the movie, and it is fucking hilarious to me.
And I got to imagine too, speaking of blood, that I know we're getting close to it here, but that in 1987, that had to be the most by gallon blood in a movie of all time, I would imagine. Like in just the scene where he has shot holes in the wall trying to shoot his hand, and then there's blood shooting out of all the holes before all the black Evil Dead liquid shoots out. But there's just so much blood, so much.
And it is quite a lot, and I'm wondering. I would love to know what they made all that blood out of. I think that would be really. I would love to know what that was because they used just so much of it the entire movie that I thought was hilarious. So I don't know. But yeah. So if anyone else has any other parting words to say for the Evil Dead 2 or Evil Dead 2, we gotta talk about the ending, right? 'Cause-
Where he wakes up in a different time.
Yeah, because obviously they Annie during the final battle, where one of my favorite parts is Henrietta being headless or with a long neck. I swallow your soul. I
yeah.
swallow your soul. Something about that with that puppetry is just so funny to me. But the monkey screeches as soon as her neck starts growing is just out of nowhere. I just don't understand. It works for some reason. I don't know. Again, it comes back to the fact that I think a lot of things work in this movie for me, and I don't think it really is the fact that it is a super like top tier movie, but it's just fucking awesome. It's just like it's hard for me to explain, but you understand like the difference between like what I'm talking about with the favorites and the best of all.
Mm-hmm.
But what's up, Benny?
I was gonna say, I think you really put it best when you said that it was entertaining, like the whole entire movie itself, not even just the movie, but just like the whole entire, I would say Evil Dead The Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. Both of them were just super entertaining movies in general, and I want to say that I definitely found, like, this is what really kind of like caused me to really love these type of movies. It was the fact that like it was using every aspect that it could for like comedic type of like relief, as well as it was using all the aspect of like the action and everything that it had. It was just really, really good and overall entertaining, and I just love that. That was just something that I really did want to say, that you would definitely hit on the head, that it was very entertaining.
Wholeheartedly agree. Let's talk about the ending real quick, and then we'll go ahead and wrap things up, because obviously they're doing this final fight, and Annie's reading off the scripture, the words, the incantations, whatever, and you're thinking that they're finally vanquishing the demons into this other world where they came from, but they're not. They're just opening a portal, and that portal ends up sucking Ash and his car through into what is one of these like out of left field, so strange, just endings of all time, where he ends up in the middle of like a battlefield surrounded by knights and a monk like a friar as they're fighting off, and it's like, Kill, slay the beast, tis he a deadite. And they try to go to slam him, but then this flying thing comes out of nowhere, and Ash stands up, and suddenly he's on like this big rock podium for no reason. And he's like, he's got the shotgun, and he's staring it right down in the eyes, and he's fully embraced that he is now Ash Williams, Terminator, and slams that deadite with the shotgun. And then they all just crowd around him, and they're like, "Hail the man who's fallen from the sky to slay the deadites! Hail! Hail!" And then, no. Because Bruce Campbell, dude, is just, I think he's on it in this movie the entire way through. Right up to the end. But yeah.
They definitely think he's some sort of god, but like, he's come from the sky. He has this device that fires projectiles and like explodes people. Like, they're probably fascinated by this guy, that like they probably think he's like Jesus.
Well, the good news is there's a movie that'll let you know how they feel about him.
I know, and I'm excited. We won't be talking about it on this like 4-part series that we're doing here, because next week, ladies and gentlemen, we're reviewing Halloween. And what is this here? The Book of the Dead. But I think we will be reviewing Halloween on, if everything goes as planned, Halloween, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be having some very special things going on during that podcast, so make sure you don't miss it. And it'll be the conclusion of the 4-part October 2021 horror movie podcast series. And after this month, we will decide what the future of the podcast hold. I definitely don't want this to be my last podcast going forward next week. We'll be doing other stuff. We'll stray away a little bit from the horror movie part of everything. And obviously, I love talking to each and every one of you guys that I have on here today. But as I go forward and continue growing the podcast and trying to do more creative things and branching out into different subjects, I'm going to have some different guests on as well. Because we are going to be doing some crazy stuff in December as well, which is going to be cool, in my opinion. And I may do 1 or 2 offshoot movie podcasts next month, because I think Eternals is coming out in November, if I'm not mistaken. right? Yeah, that's the next Marvel movie to come out. So you'll probably get just another Marvel podcast off of that one. And I will also say that yes, odds will definitely be on that one for sure. We'll talk and everything, and I'll see, because obviously I'm not restricted to 3 of you either. I could have 5 to 6 people on at one time, and it doesn't really matter. But you'll pay attention to the Discord channel, pay attention to my Twitch, twitch.tv/SileyGames, and you will see what the future holds for the podcast in general, because just another podcast as an overall brand is not going to stop. And pretty soon here, I'm happy to introduce a kind of one-on-one review experience that I'll be doing, where it is just another opinion. It'll be just me doing reviews on certain things that I'm very excited to talk about, certain movies, certain TV shows, certain video games, anime, whatever. You'll see. It's going to be fun. I hope you guys stick around for that. As always, this has been Odds Odd, Johnathan Ross, Benny Radford, for just another horror movie podcast. I thank you all for joining, and stick around on the Twitch channel afterwards for some fun, exciting stuff, all right? Peace out!
See you later.